Welcome to Driven to Draw. My name is Arvin. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's something that I actually don't do very often. So if anything, it's kind of a learning experience for me as well. If any of you like the subject matter, we're going to be drawing motorcycles today. So I decided to switch it up a little bit because I'm traditionally drawing cars, and I thought that, you know what? I might as well put the money where my mouth is, because I'm always telling people to try to mix it up a little bit and get out of their comfort zone, and my discomfort was motorcycles. So I decided to go ahead and draw one. Even though I haven't really drawn a lot of motorcycles, I have used or taken the basic approach of using fundamental techniques to at least set up the viewpoint and the perspective. And then from the viewpoint and perspective, I really just use some of the basic methodologies and techniques of proportioning and blocking things into basic shapes before I actually start to detail out the drawing. Now, the drawing is done off of just cheap newsprint paper. You don't have to spend a lot of money if you want to just get started and you just want to experiment. You don't have to buy expensive markers or expensive pencils or pens. My suggestion, if you're just starting out and you want to explore and you just want to test things out, is start with just a regular pad of newsprint paper. You can get them in any art store or wherever it is that you choose to go and purchase your goods. 2, get yourself a Marshall Lot permanent marker. And 3, make sure you have a lot of patience. Don't expect a lot of great results at the beginning. Remember, this is just your start of your journey to experiment and just to enjoy the very art of creation and having fun. We'll see you in a little bit. Have a good one. And we begin. Alright, I'm going to get my trusted Marshall Lot permanent marker. I've got a sheet of newsprint paper here that I've got on my old drafting table. And what I'm going to do here is first sort of plan out where my ellipses are going to go. So I'm just lightly sketching. That's something that you want to make sure that you do, is that you sketch really light. You don't want to be too heavy-handed, especially when you got a permanent marker. Here we go. Now I'm just going to, I do have a photo reference, so I'm looking at a photo reference, and what this is allowing me to do is to sort of set up the angle of the tilt for the motorcycle. Now I'm just roughing in where I think my ellipses are going to be, and now I'm going to add my minor axis to it. So all I've got here is just my basic shape. I've got to decrease the degree of the lips there. That one was a little too wide, so as I kind of want to make them pretty similar, actually, as far as the degrees of lips are concerned here. So essentially what I'm doing here when you watch this is I'm creating a sort of a donut shape. Motorcycle tires are pretty, they're a little intimidating, because at least when you're drawing a car you really don't have to care about the full width of the tire, because it's being hidden by the wheel well and the rest of the car body. When you start drawing motorcycles, it gets a little tough, because you've only got the frame and the body, and then you got the exposed tires. It's all open wheel. So you're not going to be able to cheat your freehand ellipse. You can come back in with templates and things, but when you're drawing this large, it's sort of hard to get templates like that. So I've just set this thing up. Now I'm just starting to create the shape. I'm just blocking in, making sure that I'm sort of following the same angle of the rest of the sketch, or where the ellipses are. And I'm going to start to dial in and add in where the calipers are, the brake calipers. Just going to adjust that minor axis there. The most important thing that I want people to take away from this is that just notice how I'm not really adding a lot of details. Everything is starting off really basic. I'm just adding the basic shapes and forms, and all we have right now is just a bunch of cylinders. Now when we get into drawing some just tires itself, I can go and we've got to actually, I have an older video where I kind of dissect the section of the tire, which is really more automotive related. Motorcycle tires are different, but it's still a nice reference to look at a previous video that I had done quite some time ago. So all I'm doing is just blocking in the shape. This was like, I'll be honest, this is the wrong way to start a motorcycle sketch. Not the actual motorcycle itself, but just the angle I chose is so difficult. I don't know why I didn't just do a side view. Side views are a lot easier to explain, but this picture that I'm looking at is really pretty marvelous. It's just the perfect action shot. The guy's leaning in on a turn, and it's pretty cool. So problem with me, sometimes I tend to try to take the most dynamic and attractive looking picture that I can find and then go from there. This is all real time, by the way. I am trying to sketch as fast as I can when I get through this. I want people to get an idea of how fast I really sketch when I begin something. But we're going to speed it up here pretty soon. Once we get to the 7-minute mark of the video, then we're going to go at 300%. Because I just want you to get a nice basic idea of how fast and my methodology in sketching and how I sort of plan everything out. I'm constantly judging, evaluating, looking at the photograph and seeing where do I need to make my adjustments. As you can see, now we just sped up the video. I've got the biker's helmet. I'll say something, sketching with this marks a lot. It was really when I first used to sketch, I never sketched with a permanent marker. I hated it because anytime I made a mistake or screwed something up, then it would visibly show. And by just saying, well, you know what, forget about all that. I'm not going to erase, I'm not going to do any kind of correction whatsoever, come what may. What's happened is that as I got to that stage, and especially with newsprint paper, because newsprint is such a cheap medium that no one really cares. I mean, you're not really supposed to care when you use newspaper and you're drawing on newspaper. That's essentially what newsprint paper is. It's very thin and absorbs a lot of ink, and it's kind of like your throwaway paper for just doing some doodles and sketches. So what that allowed me to do as I began to sketch was to reduce that intimidation factor that I had to create something that looked really nice and finished and complete. And as I just practiced on this paper, I think things just got better and better. But I still am plagued with that issue of taking a really nice sheet of marker paper, and then when I take the marker paper, it's like, oh man, I got to make this thing look really awesome the first time. I still have that issue. So this is what I typically do. I get a sheet of newsprint paper, and then I don't really care as much. Now, as you can see, I've added some value to the tire. I'm just evaluating what the thickness of the tires are. Just sort of quickly adding in little details and knickknacks here on the sketch, just to make it a little bit more visually interesting. and then figure out how to as I'm going through the tire area, I'm just adding more detail, and then I'm making sure that I don't apply as much pressure so I can kind of get that gradation a little bit to show some sense of movement and speed. That's the tricky thing. This is why you want to really focus and concentrate on how fast you can sketch, or at least develop the proficiency in sketching with speed, because you're going to need that speed so that the ink doesn't start flowing out of the marker, and then you get a lot of areas that are bleeding and just too much saturation, or have the page saturated with ink. You want to be able to get that gradation, so the more you just practice with a permanent marker, you'll start to see those results. It'll get there. Once again, I'm just reinforcing the wheels, just adding a little bit more value. I just want to see which areas do I want to sort of pop and bring some attention to the drawing. I gotta make the rear wheel a little bit thicker. So constantly going back to the picture, evaluating what am I missing, what are the details, what do I need to get, what do I need to sort of communicate. Now we got the racing stripe there in the front. This helmet seems a little bit goofy there, but I think it's still sort of working. You know, the other difficulty that people have is really creating that proficiency in your sketching, so that as you're just sort of adding little details and little dots that are supposed to sort of mean something when you look back at the picture and say, hey, that looks like something technical. It really takes quite a while and some practice to be able to add in those little details and make it look like it's believable to some extent. And when I first started this journey of wanting to get into sketching when I was in design school, and even after I graduated, to be honest, most of my expertise and speed and refinement came after I graduated from college. I saw some of what my friends were doing and how well they were doing it, and I started to, believe it or not, go back in my basement and start sketching and refining. That's why I feel a lot of people can really accomplish a lot if they put their mind to it, because it is about practice. It doesn't always have to be that you are specifically talented, though talent does help initially. If you do have some talent, then you can get to an area of expertise quicker than somebody that doesn't. But there are several instances that you see in school where someone was a lot more talented than the other student, and the person that was persevering and had a sense of resolve and was practicing pretty much caught up to the other guy. And after graduation, it was the person that had started off a little bit slow that actually won that gold medal. He got picked because he really went that extra mile, and he put in a lot more effort and work. So you got to have passion. You have to have a lot of interest in what you're doing in order to be successful at it. So yes, you do need to be talented, but it's not the only thing. You really need to make sure that you practice and you understand what your purpose is, what it is that you're trying to do as you are embarking in getting better at drawing, or anything else for that matter. It doesn't really matter whether it's drawing or something else that you're doing. I'm using a white gel pen, by the way. Alright, we're going to go back to regular speed. We've only got about another minute left. minute and a half. So now I'm just adding a little bit more detail as I start to evaluate the entire drawing, seeing what's missing. Ever so using that light touch. Gotta make sure that you practice the ability to vary your line weight and apply pressure when you need the pressure, and then to let up on it. This wasn't too bad. I wouldn't say it's perfect. It's not the best, but like I said, I've never really, or I haven't drawn actually motorcycles in a long time. So this is a nice exercise. It's always nice to switch it up and do different things. And that's what you're going to see a lot. You're going to see me drawing a lot of other things like fruit. Things that we did back in school, which is great. Drawing apples, watercolors, and grapes, bananas, whatever. I mean, it's not really the subject. It's really the idea of understanding the shapes and the colors and how those colors blend and how to interpret it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this demonstration, and we'll see you here next time. Driven to Draw. Have a good one.